Good morning or good afternoon. My name is Kyle. I'm the vendor business manager here at 888 VoIP. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to meet with us today as we discuss the Teams solution from Yealink. We'll give it another minute or so so folks can get logged in and get set before we get started. Before we do get started, just want to go over a couple housekeeping points. If there are any questions or any feedback that come up throughout the presentation, there is a chat function as part of the GoToWebinar tool we're using today that you can utilize if there is a question or follow-up point that you'd like to make as I go through the presentation today. Might not get to it right away, but we will have a question and answer period here at the end of the session, so that if there's follow-up questions that need to be answered or discussions that we need to take offline, we can identify those and answer or provide any additional information that you might need. So we'll take about 20 minutes, half hour or so to go through the presentation today. Like I said, it'll be predominantly focused in on the Zoom solution from Yealink. We'll go ahead and get started here in just a moment. All right, so at the top of the hour here, out east, so we'll go ahead and begin the presentation today. Again, my name is Kyle, the vendor business and product manager here at 888 VoIP. I really appreciate you all taking time out of your day to meet with us. Hopefully it's going to be an informative session and use of your time. And so let's go ahead and get into it. So we'll start by just taking a look at the overall solution mix that Yealink has on the market today as it pertains to their Zoom Rooms products. So Zoom Rooms being the operative word here, we're talking about the video solution that Yealink has developed from a hardware side to pair with the Zoom platform. What we currently have on the market today, going from left to right, is the UVC30, UVC50, and UVC80 based kits, all of which come with, as you can see in the picture, the CP960. Newly released as of, I believe, this week, Yealink has recently announced the ZVC830. This is a very exciting addition to the product family for Zoom Rooms kits. As you can see from the picture, you're going to get quite a bit more components, but it's really designed for a larger sized room application, more of a large conference room or perhaps a boardroom, a training area, classroom, lecture hall. The components that come with the product are a little bit different, more so associated to what we've seen from Yealink on the Microsoft Teams side. But instead of the CP960 now, the ZVC830 incorporates a soundbar and wired microphone pods and a color touchscreen control panel. So this is a new addition, an enhancement, if you will, to the Zoom Room kit. We'll get into some more details about the particular model in just a moment, but this is a good start just to understand that Yealink has developed a few different bundles for the appropriate sized application that the kits are going to be deployed into, starting from the huddle and medium and small size conference rooms all the way on up to the large, extra large auditorium type perhaps, or lecture hall, classroom type of environments. So the UVC30 kit, that's relatively new, in case you guys haven't seen that recently. It's a new camera, it's a 4K USB camera, really designed for that smaller huddle space. We're starting to see more and more questions come out about this particular product, and really when we're thinking about the previous solutions, this was really the design context that Yealink had in mind when going to market with these original kits, starting with the small and then going through to the medium and large meeting rooms. That's been the predominant kind of context that Yealink has created these solutions for. Across all the products and bundles, there are standard set of features that are delivered uniquely from Yealink. And so we'll get into the specific features as we go through the presentation today. But the point of this slide here is to just iterate the fact that there are standard features across all of the hardware that are going to be unique to the Yealink solution, but will be throughout the entire model series. So starting first by looking at one brand packaging and a native Zoom room experience, the CP960 that comes with the bundles with the UVC30, 50, and 80, it runs a Zoom-specific firmware so that the user interface and some of the features and how the phone operates out of the box is going to be in line and firmly ingrained with the Zoom platform. So there's no additional steps required to integrate the hardware to the Zoom platform, and that's by design. Same thing goes for the mini PC that comes in the solution. And so from a core feature perspective, all of the kits for Zoom from Yealink utilize a Intel NUC Windows PC, and that Windows PC will have Zoom software preloaded on the device so that it's extremely plug and play, very easy to take out of the box and set up in the environment that the customer is utilizing it in as well. Same thing for all the licensing. It's all pre-installed on both the phone and the PC. The camera itself, for that matter, all the cameras in the Zoom Rooms kit package, they're all going to be USB as well. So that's the UVC30, 50, and 80. Another cool feature specifically for the CP960 is that it is going to be a meeting controller. So instead of having to use a remote control or having to use potentially like a mouse plugged into the mini PC, the Intel NUC that comes in the package, the CP960 firmware for Zoom actually allows it to be a meeting controller so that you can access the directory, you can control the camera, you can turn presentation screen sharing on and off, and you can actually create on-the-fly meetings. So that's native to the preloaded firmware that's actually on the CP960 as well. The CP960s can also support the use of their wireless microphones. It's the same wireless microphones that you may have seen deployed with Yealink conference phones on the SIP side. They're the CPW90s. They utilize DECT, D-E-C-T, radio technology, and will pair directly to the conference phone as well, so you can expand the pickup and coverage for audio purposes in the meeting space. You can see just toggling through a couple different shots of the user interface of the CP960, get an understanding of how it looks in the middle of a meeting, the options that the user has. It's a very clean, very streamlined look. The design is meant to fit within the Zoom kind of brand, same coloring, same feel, same layout as what other users may have been used to if they've used similar or competing products in the past. A feature that Yealink is pretty proud of that they were able to develop with this product is just the ease of use to deploy the different components. And in this particular slide, we're talking about the one cable technology that allows us to connect the CP960 to the Intel NUC PC that is the brain, if you will, of the product bundle. So with the CP960, when we connect it all back to the mini PC, you can actually connect it by Ethernet cable as long as the mini PC and the CP960 are connected to the same LAN, or you could also do a wireless connection. Again, as long as both the PC and the CP960 are connected to the same network, whether that's through a Wi-Fi access point or through an Ethernet connection, deploying those components becomes much simpler, I should say, because of this capability. You don't have to run a USB cable, so that really opens up the deployability, if you will, of the CP960. You're not limited by USB cable length constrictions. You have a couple more options with how and where you ultimately decide to deploy the CP960 and how it's connected to the Intel NUC PC. Other than that, the USB camera, pretty self-explanatory. That'll be a connection to the USB port on the Intel NUC. And then we have an HDMI connection to the display. I want to touch on the features and the quality of the cameras themselves. In particular, starting with the UVC30 on up, they're all PTZ or pan tilt zoom cameras. Whatever camera you go with, you have the ability to have PTZ built in, and at the very least, have 1080p quality at 60 frames per second. When we're talking about the UVC30 in particular, you'll get up to a 4K quality, but between the high quality camera and the use of the CP960, we're talking about both high quality video and audio components being built in to the Zoom Room bundle here. And so that's a big differentiator when talking to clients about deploying the Yealink versus deploying maybe something more basic, perhaps more consumer, that is being considered. The costs that you're going to pay for Yealink might be a little bit higher, but you're also going to pay for and provide a higher quality experience. So now we can talk to a customer about having real-time video communications in 4K or 1080p, or having HD voice during a video call, which would not be supported by a simple webcam, plugged into a USB port on top of a TV. So it's a more business-grade, commercial-grade hardware application, I think, to meet the needs of the more business and commercial markets that are used to maybe a higher quality experience previously from, let's say, a Polycom, a Lifesize, a Cisco, more IP-based products. That's been the challenge up to now with deploying some of these more unified communications-based platforms, is the quality of the experience isn't necessarily as high as it may have been in the past. So by incorporating better hardware components like a high quality camera, an HD voice supported conference phone, it's going to ensure that these customers are going to have the expectation, or going to have the experience that they expect when having these video and web calls. A unique feature to Yealink with these particular bundles is that they can be remotely managed using the device management platform that Yealink currently has available to customers. And that's just not a tool that provides you a quick look if a unit is connected to the network or not. It's a pretty useful tool. It's an all-in-one dashboard that allows integrators, resellers, service providers to not only see if a unit is connected and on the network, but also to do some remote troubleshooting, upgrading, firmware upgrades, things of that nature, pushing packet captures, diagnosing issues if such things happen, but also getting Windows updates. Again, the mini PC that comes with the Zoom bundle is a Windows operating PC. It's an Intel NUC. So if there's a new Windows update that needs to come down or needs to get pushed out, an actual technician doesn't have to be on site to do that. It can all be pushed and managed and monitored through the Yealink device management platform. This is a unique feature. A lot of conference rooms nowadays have at least 2, sometimes 3 displays. We're seeing this become more and more popular. And so in order to support the full collaboration capabilities of the hardware and of the platforms we're using, so that we can see shared content, but also see and continue to engage with the people that are in the meeting, Yealink is supporting a triple screen display through an adapter. It's a pretty cool feature that is built into the operating system and the firmware that Yealink is using. But if you have a scenario or customers that are requesting up to 3 screens be supported, you can do so with the HDMI adapter that can be deployed with the Zoom kit. All right, so I wanted to touch on some more detail about the newly announced UVC830. The product itself has just been announced, so it's not readily available for sale just yet in the channel, but at least we can start to talk about the specific features and components that do come with it. So we mentioned previously that there's some key features across the entire product family. So that would still be the same and applicable here to the UVC830, except there's a couple different component changes that we can see here. So the sound bar and the microphones that come with the UVC830 are a little bit different than what we see with the CP960. The reason being, it's really, this product, this model is designed for just a larger room size application. So you'll still get the UVC80 camera. That's going to have the large optical lens, pan tilt zoom, 1080p at 60 frames per second video quality. But now you have the ability to deploy up to 4 wired VCM34 microphones. And those microphones individually provide you about a 20 or so foot radius of pickup. So they're really easy to deploy in a linear fashion because they're all connected by Ethernet. So you can daisy chain multiple microphone pods together to have ample coverage in whatever environment that the system is being deployed in. The soundbar itself is USB soundbar, so that would sit near the displays most likely, or on a credenza nearby, but that would enhance the overall audio capabilities perhaps more than what a display speaker might otherwise provide. So that was the reason for the USB soundbar. And then lastly, we have a color touchscreen control panel. So because we're not using the CP960 anymore, and there's not a remote control that comes in the box, something has to control the meeting experience, the connections, the directory access presentation toggling on and off. And so that's why we have the CTP20. That's this small tablet-looking device up in the corners. So that's going to be how you access the directory, how you create just-in-time or on-the-fly meetings, and toggle between content sharing. Wanted to get into some more specifics here now with the CP960 and UVC30 kit. I mentioned before that it's designed for huddle and smaller meeting rooms. The UVC30 camera itself is a relatively new product. It has facial recognition capabilities and software so that it's going to kind of automatically adjust to whomever's talking. It has a 120-degree field of view, so it's a pretty wide field of view for a relatively small size camera, and it supports up to 4K resolution. So the auto framing feature is pretty neat. It's something that's becoming, I think, relatively prevalent in the market. It's becoming more or less a standard feature between the competing brands. And so Yealink had incorporated this into the new UVC30 camera. You can purchase the UVC30 camera on its own or in the bundle with the mini PC and the CP960. For medium to mid-sized room applications, the CP960 and UVC50 kit is probably going to be your best bet. That's based upon predominantly the UVC50's capability. It has a 5x optical lens PTZ camera. It has a wide angle lens as well, so that even in a relatively small or wide, yet not very deep meeting room, you should have the capabilities to pick up a pretty wide area of the meeting space. You can also control the camera from left, right, up, and down because it is PTZ through the controller software on the CP960. But this bundle, again, based upon its price point and the components in the package, are really designed for like a mid-sized meeting space, conference rooms, small classrooms, probably under maybe 20, 25 feet by maybe 10, 15 feet, give or take a few. And then we have the UVC80 and CP960 kit. What we're really taking advantage of here in this particular model is the camera. The UVC80, it has 12 times optical lens zoom. So in terms of positioning, zoom, movement, field of view, the UVC80 gives you the most capabilities to have the most coverage in the spaces that you're meeting in. So it supports a very high quality video, 1080p, 60 frames per second, but has the ability to move around, be adjusted, and zoom in at a much greater degree than what we see with the UVC50 and the UVC30. So this is for your larger more traditional meeting rooms, conference rooms, classroom applications that you need to have a single camera, but also ample coverage for the larger spaces that you're meeting in. And we touched on this before, just the components of the ZVC830, but this is just to reiterate that you can deploy up to 4 VCM34 microphones. You do get the sound bar, and you get what's called the M-Touch console. So that's the official term of the console. None of these components are available just as an individual component, at least from the Zoom side, just yet. But over time, we'll probably see that the controllers, the touch panels, the sound bars, they'll be available for sale as individual components so that if customers over time want to upgrade, they can do so, or they can add individual components over time as well. Specifically, if they've deployed the UVC80 in the past, maybe as a standalone camera, you can come back now and get these individual components. But for now, they're going to be deployed together as a package. We touched on a good bit of detail with the UVC80. Just want to also just reiterate that the camera itself is completely plug and play. It is a standalone USB cable, so all the components are included in the box that it's sold with. So you get an 8-foot USB cable, a power adapter, and a wall mount. It is not PoE powered, so it does require the AC adapter and have a plug nearby in order to have it work. Same thing would be true for the UVC50, a little bit smaller camera compared to the UVC80, but again, still fully optical lens, pan tilt zoom, comes with the 8-foot USB cable, power adapter, and wall mount. Okay, and so the UVC, there's a little bit of a typo here, I apologize, but for the UVC30, that is a USB camera as well. It can be powered on its own. That's a editing error here on this slide, but it's completely standalone in terms of how it operates. It does not require the additional power adapter and is self-mountable. It's a lot smaller form factor, more so designed for the remote office user, smaller meeting space, huddle space, executive user, something that would hang over a smaller size display or perhaps a computer display. The CP960 conference phone we mentioned before, it does come preloaded with all the appropriate licensing and software that would be needed to incorporate the hardware to a Zoom environment. You can utilize it just as an audio component, or you can use it as an audio component with the video meetings that Zoom provides. So either one, whether you're using Zoom Voice or Zoom Web Meetings, the hardware itself is able to integrate in either environment. The two CPW90 wireless microphones can be optional as well. If you have a scenario in which that you don't need them, you can go ahead and deploy the unit without them. Smaller size meeting rooms, for example. But all the standard technology that we see from Yealink, including their acoustic fence, their noise-proof technology, those are included in the hardware as well. This may be relatively new if you haven't seen these before with the Microsoft Teams solution that Yealink has. It's the touch screen. We talked about this a little bit, but the screen size itself is 8-inch, has a pretty high resolution rate, captive touch screen, has a motion sensor. That's the small black piece down at the bottom under the bezel there. When no one's in the room or as a power saving measure, the screen will black out, shut down. But if someone were to walk back in front of it or move their hand over the top of it, it'll light right back up. It does have an adjustable bracket depending upon the preference of the user or the application of the hardware. There's some tech specs on the new audio components, the VCM34 microphones and the sound bar. We touched on the components of the VCM34 a little bit before. There is a mute button on the mic pods as well, a little LED indicator to see if it's muted or not. Green is unmuted, red is muted. They do incorporate the noise-proof technology that Yealink has developed over time as well. And then the M speaker, like we said before, it's a USB component. Has a pretty decent technical specs in terms of the frequency and its decibels that it can emit. It's about 70 dB, which is pretty good for a small little sound bar. So it's more so designed for the larger room applications because of the technological capabilities that it has. So that'll bring us right to the end of the presentation today. It was just a quick overview of the Zoom Room kits. It's been a little while since we've presented them. Now that Yealink has recently released the UVC830, we wanted to revisit the solution, make sure that everyone was up to date on what has been developed by Yealink, what's available for Teams, as that's becoming a more and more popular option for unified communications, for video, for web meetings, and for audio. So Yealink, because of their strategic relationships with multiple platform providers, has developed this hardware. So if there's additional questions that you have for us, you can reach out to salesteam@888VoIP.com. If you have questions for Yealink, Zoom info, all one word, at yealink.com is going to be the email alias you want to send a quick email to if there's any follow-up or request that you have. 888 VoIP does offer demo programs for these particular products based upon opportunities. If you have customers that are considering a solution like this, currently utilizing Zoom or are considering Zoom, let us know. We'll be happy to meet with you, potentially meet with them if you're interested, provide a demo of the hardware for 30 days to use as a proof of concept unit and allow the customer to get their hands on it, see how it operates in the Zoom environment, give you a chance to understand the hardware, the requirements for deployment, for management, etc. But that brings us to the end of the presentation. I hope it was informative and a good use of everyone's time. If there's any questions, feel free to utilize the chat feature of the GoToWebinar here. I'm going to hang out for another 5-6 minutes or so, and if this is the end of the time that you have, I appreciate you making time in your day, and we'll catch you in the next one. Thank you. Pull out the questions here. So a question came in: can the CP960 be used for SIP calls and for the Zoom connection? So right now, the answer is no if you're using a third-party PBX. If you're using Zoom calling, yes, you can do audio calls, but if you have an IP PBX from, name your platform, you can have a dual registration. That's a limitation of the firmware that is running for Zoom. So that's going to make that component purpose-built for the Zoom platform. And we can provide a copy of the deck that was utilized today to all the participants. We'll grab all your email from the registration list, and we can send it out to you. Just give us a couple days to find a home for the info, put it up on a server somewhere, make it easy for you guys to access it instead of sending big old PowerPoint files. Question came in: can we install other additional additional video conferencing applications on the NUC? The answer is yes. The Intel NUC, because it runs Windows 10, is going to be pretty similar to what we have if you were to buy a Lenovo, HP, or Dell laptop or computer. The core difference being that there's a little driver, there's a software driver that is preloaded, so that it's going to automatically just open up the Zoom software that's already on the NUC. However, you have admin rights that basically allow you to get out of the app and just get right into the desktop in the same way you would any other PC. So yeah, you can download whatever software you like, Windows software that you like, be it for go to meeting, go to webinar, WebEx, what have you. You can certainly utilize the Nook for other platforms if you'd like. Just the driver itself for Zoom is going to open up, I should say, that Zoom software out of the box, at least the first time, until you kind of adjust what software is loaded up on that PC. Is NFR pricing available for the kits? That is a work in progress. There was at one point for the UVC80 bundle that was suspended temporarily. So if you have an immediate need or an opportunity to sell the bundles, let us know. We can work with Yealink in the short term to come up with something. There will be in 2020 a better developed NFR program and demo kit for these particular kits, but for the time being, it's on a one-off basis. So a question came in: if using the Yealink remote provisioning server, not the device management platform, where do we get the URL to point the devices for the Zoom device registration? I'll have to look into that one. Most likely, that's a good question. So what I've done in the past is when I've tested these and deployed these, the Zoom information, you kind of just log in through the software that's running on it. So I'll have to double check with the Yealink team to better understand that particular piece of it, because it's the same process as far as I understand it as just, like I said, opening up your laptop and just clicking a Zoom desktop icon and then just logging in that way. So the hardware itself doesn't have to necessarily be registered to a particular user. Obviously, if you want directory access and organizational information at your fingertips, you need to have that loaded or have to be logged into the particular subscription that you have. So from an auto provisioning, quote unquote, standpoint, I'll have to get back in touch with you on that one to see if it's possible to preload this information so that but I'll look into that for you. It looks like that's going to be the end of the questions, unless anybody else has anything for me. All right, so it's the bottom of the hour here, about 2:30 in the East, so we'll wrap it up. Get a list of everyone who participated. Make sure that we put the presentation up on a server for you guys to access if you'd like. Again, thank you very much for taking time out of your day to meet with us. We really appreciate it. My name is Kyle, and we'll catch you in the next one. Take care.